Who are you to judge? If you're not liking these videos, press the button now. Don't worry about me. If you're not liking them, I'm gonna come get you. Huh? Tracking calories can be a great tool in trying to improve your nutritional intake. Today, we're gonna go over 3 tips to help you get started with tracking your calories. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're gonna be going over 3 tips to help you get started with tracking your calories. Our first tip in getting started with tracking our calories is to get some scales. I find that getting a set of scales that are a bit bigger in size definitely help with trying to weigh food. When I had these and was starting out, it was just a pain in the ass to see what I was tracking, if that was covered. When it was about here, I'll put stuff on and it'll start to lose balance, and who knows how accurate that is. So having some scales that are just a bit bigger make it a lot easier to weigh your food. So I put my plate on, it's tared, I put my food on the plate, and then from there I can start to track my food. The next tip is to weigh absolutely everything. Especially when getting started, we want to be pretty damn accurate, and that comes with a little bit of practice. The easiest way to get started and making sure we're as accurate as possible is weighing everything, irrespective of whether or not you think it's high in calories or low in calories. At least for the first few weeks, it is a bit of an educational process. So the biggest one that I find is things like barbecue sauce. If you have a serving of barbecue sauce twice a day, over the space of 7 days, that's 14 serves. And 14 serves ends up being about 85 grams of carbs throughout the week. 85 grams of carbs times by 4, it's close to 400 calories per week. And when we start getting people into a caloric deficit, we can go from 400 to 600 calories straight off the bat, especially if they're at maintenance. And just by tracking sauce, we can determine whether or not we're in a deficit. Things like shortbread cream cookies. These cookies alone, one a week or one a day, is about 616 calories over the space of a week. Again, just by subtracting these cookies, you can create a caloric deficit if your weight has been stable. And these are some of the things that a lot of our clients come to us with and say, I can't believe how much or how many calories were in some of these foods that I thought were inconsequential for my overall week of nutrition. And the third and final tip is when you're getting started with tracking calories, don't set any deficit or surplus targets. We're trying to develop a habit. And at Melbourne Strength Culture, we're pretty big at just starting with one small thing and then layering habits on top of that. If we start with, hey, you've never ever tracked in your life before, we want you to develop the habit of tracking your food whilst in a caloric deficit or surplus, it's just too much stress. If we can get someone just developing the skill of tracking calories first for a few weeks, it'll allow them to get used to it, understand the caloric content of the foods that they're eating, what macros they are in need of, and then from there, after we've developed the habit, we can start to determine whether or not the client needs a deficit or a surplus, and then how much of both of those we need to actually drive towards that individual. Just get into the habit of tracking, and then once you've developed the habit, that's when we determine whether or not we're in a deficit or a surplus. They're my 3 tips for getting started with tracking your calories. If you have any more questions about tracking calories, just some tips and tricks on how to improve that process, drop it in the comments below. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, happy lifting.